everybody. I'm Chally, and I'd just like to welcome you to our amazing panel with our awesome guest, David Mariotte. David, I'd just like to first thank you so much for being here with us today. This is a really, really fun thing, and this is a really fun event to be a part of, and we're just so grateful you're here. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, thank you for having me, Chally. I'm really excited to be here and be a part of it. I'm David Mariotte. I am a writer and editor of Transformers and a number of other things at IDW Publishing.
Well, we're really excited to get started here. You actually have a lot of fans. We actually put out a Google form asking for people to send questions to you, and we got a good amount of questions here for you. So if you don't mind, I'd love to start asking them to you.
Sure, I'm going to assume they were all my mom and my freelancers looking for work, but
Oh, well, we did keep them anonymous, so it could be a possibility. Anyways, and to the viewers, my notes are over here on which questions to ask. So if I keep looking over here, I am reading the questions. We're going to start for the first question. It says, "Hi, Mr. Marriott. Can you explain a bit about what you do as an editor in IDW Publishing? What's a day in the life of Mr. David, editor, like when it comes to your work?"
so being an editor, I have said before, is kind of like being a project manager, a sheepdog, a jack of all trades, a shoulder to cry on sometimes. It's really a complicated job where, you have to move through every part of the comic process and keep track of what's happening with it. At various points in the day, I am checking with freelancers to see, hey, how are these pages coming? I'm
Mm,
giving people notes saying, hey, you messed this up. This guy's thumb is on the wrong side of his hand or whatever.
right.
Um, there's a lot of coordination both internally with the other people working at IDW and externally working with our team at Hasbro or at Sega or just, when it comes to creator owned books, which I do a lot of, working directly with the creators and saying, hey, is this approved? Can we print it? The very boring version of my job is that I sit in front of a computer for 8 hours a day and read emails and sometimes hop on a Zoom call. But
Hmm.
the fun version is that I get to look at every part of the comic process and guide it to completion.
Yeah. I mean, that's a really exciting thing. Of course, it's a lot of work, but I'm sure that there's just so much gratitude towards that from the fans. And you just work so hard, and we've had some amazing comics because of you, which is freaking awesome. What are considerations that you keep in mind when writing and editing comics?
Boy, there are a lot of those too. So, one of the things that I work on a lot is licensed comics. It's part of
Hmm.
Transformers is a licensed comic, Sonic is a licensed comic, and that's where my sort of strengths lie. One of the things you have to keep in mind is that as licensed comics, the licensors have a lot of say in things. I have heard people call them mandates before, but I really think they're more like guidelines.
Hmm.
So, you have to keep in mind that Optimus Prime is not like 6 inches tall in a script, right? So it can't just do things that are very, very small because he is a big guy. You have to keep in mind that he is also a hero, and so he can't, go around doing really, really bad stuff most of the
Right.
time.
You have to keep them in character, of course.
Exactly. So yeah, that's when writing and editing, I have to keep in mind who the characters are, why people like them in sort of a overall
Hmm.
understanding of the character, and how I can tell a story and help other people tell a story that is as authentic to the property and to the story as it can be.
Right.
Um,
It must be a lot of work because it's you got to remember like all these different characters' personalities. And in the comics, there's a lot of different characters to remember.
that is certainly true. I've said before that a big part of being the Transformers editor is being
Hmm.
able to tell the Seekers apart in black and white.
Yes, I can
Like
imagine.
if I can tell Starscream, Thundercracker, and Skywarp apart in black and white, it means things are going well because,
Good.
they look the same but they have different personalities. Yeah, that's a big part of what I'm looking at and
Hmm.
doing the job.
That's a big sign of good storytelling, just like you were saying with the seeker thing. Like, you could tell that is a really good storytelling. That's going to make a great comic. Oh, we have a really good question here. Um, how are stories selected to be written and made into comics?
So, generally speaking, another big part of my job is development.
Hmm.
What that means is, I seek out writers and artists that I like, um, and that other people who I work with like. I am the lead editor on Transformers, but I'm not the only editor. I work with our assistant, Riley Farmer, and our supervising editor, Tom Waltz. And obviously, John Barber, our editor in chief, has some history with Transformers, I hear. I don't know. Uh, John Barber, who needs him? Um, but uh, so we go through a pitching process where I will reach out to people that we like and say, "Hey, would you want to write the Transformers ongoing?" And Brian Ruckley goes, "Sure, that sounds great," and gives us a synopsis of what he is thinking of for the series. From there, we work with the team at Hasbro to finalize that, make any notes and changes that we need to have. Um, Sometimes pitches just don't go through. There's something that doesn't work. Often, when people are pitching, they don't just pitch one idea,
Hmm.
um, or they do pitch one idea but have another on the back burner to come through really quick.
Hmm.
Um, for example, I think another really good version of this is so we're launching a new Beast Wars series, which I'm very excited about.
Awesome.
And Eric Burnham came in with a really solid pitch. We were very happy with it. Um, but at some point, it was a little bit too much retreading the Beast Wars that we already known. So we said, Eric, like, mix it up a bit, man. Like, bring in some more of that Burnham flavor, and don't just be trying to do an adaptation. Try to do a new telling. And the well, I am very excited for Beast Wars. I hope other people are too. It's going to be great. So
Yeah, Beast Wars definitely feels like it's making a bit of a comeback. I know that there's that movie that's now been confirmed too. Like it's really coming back. It really brings you back to the 90s, which
right.
gotta love the 90s. I mean, that's awesome. I'm so excited to read it. I'm sure everybody watching right now is too. A lot of Beast War fans out there, so that's great. Soon I see you waving like, yes, give me the Beast Wars. If you guys don't know, our amazing tech operative, Inayakon Suna, she is recording this. So, hey, Suna, thank you so much for today. All right, so we're going to head to the next question. How did you get a job in IDW Publishing?
Nepotism. Next question. No, I'm mostly joking. Um, so realistically, I have known the company for a long time. I suppose, I've known the people at IDW and the people formerly at IDW for a long
Mhm.
time. Way back in the day, my dad was the first editor in chief at IDW.
Holy, that's
Um,
amazing.
yeah, so he was
Wow.
there from whenever they stopped doing like game review guides. Here's the thing that I don't know if people really remember. th- They used to do like the game walkthrough things that you'd get for like Nintendo games on the
Oh my
GameCube and stuff.
gosh.
Um, and that's what they did before they transitioned with into comics.
Wow.
My dad became editor in chief when they started doing more comic stuff, and then left and gave it to Chris Ryle. So a few years ago, I was freshly out of college, jobless with a journalism degree and a history of newspaper editorial. There was an editorial assistant position open. Uh, I went on a road trip that didn't turn out quite as expected. Um, but it did end mean that I ended up in San Diego and got to talk to Chris and interview for the position, and happened to just have the right sort of resume and track record. And here I am, 5-ish years later.
The rest is history, right? And we even learned a history lesson as well. Like that really brings me back to the old game things. I mean, it's so exciting when you see a game reviewer on YouTube talking about those old manuals and following them
Hmm.
along to see if they work. That's awesome. Really, really cool. Oh, this is a great question. What can an artist do to get a job at IDW?
So it's very interesting and very complicated because sometimes the answer is you don't really have to do anything. I just like scroll through Twitter and
Hmm.
your art comes up and I like it. Um, Realistically, uh, finding artists is easier than ever and also harder than ever because, really, I have found artists on Twitter. There is a artist on our Sonic series who has been doing covers for every issue now.
Wow.
Um, yeah, she's going on 40 and she's still doing
That's awesome.
doing them excellently.
Well,
Um,
congrats to her.
but when I found Nathalie, my significant other had sent her to me as like a Twitter message and was like, "Hey, her art's great." And Joe Hughes, who was my co-editor at the time, had a friend who just sent him a Twitter message and said, "Hey, Nathalie's great." And so Joe and I got up from our desks and walked towards each other, literally at the same moment, to be like, "Hey, did you see the message I just sent you about this girl, Nathalie?" Sometimes it's like that. Sometimes it's, at the recommendation of some of our other artists. Folks like Livio Remendelli, in particular, tend to be really good about saying, "Hey, I can't do this. How about this person who I happen to know has some availability?" It's just looking for art that speaks to you in some way,
Hmm.
and that shows a level of confidence that I think uh, I look at as sort of a bare minimum
Hmm.
when it comes to comics. You have to have fundamental skills down, of course, but you also have to have a keen idea of comic composition because it really is different than any other medium. Um, from panel layouts to just like understanding how to move giant robots in a world.
Yeah.
Uh, Surprisingly, Transformers are very hard to draw, and I am
Yes, they are.
immensely appreciative of anyone who can.
Yes, yes, they are. It really is hard to draw. Actually, Suna, you're going to be doing a How to Draw Robots panel. I think that it could technically have already aired today, but hey, if you missed it, you will catch it later. We are re-uploading all our panels. But there is nothing more exciting to me when you see somebody that you followed and they've been a fan artist for so long, and
Mhm.
then all of a sudden they post a picture and they did an official cover, they colored something. It just warms your heart as a fan of that fan art. It's like, oh my gosh, you did it. There's
Mhm.
nothing more fun than that.
Mhm.
Um,
I'll also say that another great place, though it's a little bit harder in quarantine times, to find artists is, of course, conventions. Like,
yes.
we do a lot of portfolio reviews when conventions are available. I keep an eye on the virtual conventions like Iacon for
Hmm.
up and coming artists. And, you know, uh, getting your art out there is a huge way to be discovered.
Yeah, for sure. Like you said, it's so easy to find them, but also so hard, especially choosing between artists and everything like that. But it really is amazing what the internet has brought us compared to the 90s and 80s, where it was strictly just going to conventions to find people. What specific things do you look for in a portfolio?
Ooh, so generally speaking, and I hate to say this, but when I look at portfolios, I don't really care if there are people in them. That's the problem with the fact that I primarily edit Transformers and Sonic nowadays.
Hmm.
I've forgotten what people look like, and if you can draw them, fantastic, that's great. But I don't need that most of the time.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
so I find that portfolios are very important to be at least partially tailored, not just to your audience, but to the sort of job that you want. So
Right.
if you are reaching out to someone like me with a portfolio that is full of, people doing superhero stuff, that's lovely. I'm going to have a good time looking at it, but chances are I'm not going to have a position to hire you for because IDW as a whole doesn't do a lot of superhero work, and I in particular don't do any sort of superhero stuff. The other side to that is that you should also be applying for work that you want to do, right?
Yes, of course.
And I sometimes see people who aren't really sure what their niche is or aren't really sure what they want to be doing. And so they just sort of rapid fire put all of their skills in a portfolio. But as impressive as it can be if you can, you know, do pencils, inks, colors, and letter all your stuff, if one of those parts is bad, that doesn't really reflect well on the rest of the portfolio. And more importantly, like, if you're trying to be a colorist, I don't need to see your lettering. Like,
Yeah.
that's lovely, but you know, I don't need to see it. So I always find figuring out what sort of jobs you want and the people that you want to be working with is the best way to go about putting together a portfolio. I also would say, don't make it overwhelming. Like, especially with comics, I would like to see 5 to 10 pages generally,
Hmm.
and preferably I get to see sequentials as well as sort of pinups and covers. But yeah, that's mostly what you want to put together.
That's really sound advice to so many fan artists, I'm sure, watching today. And I think that's really going to help so many people out. That was a really, really good question, not only for the Transformers comic book industry, but also for other industries as well to try to form a portfolio for that kind of theme. So that's really, really awesome advice. Favorite issue for the latest Transformers continuity, either the mainline or Galaxies, or even the crossover, and why?
Playing favorites is always so hard because it's
Definitely.
like it's like saying this is my favorite kid or this is my
Right.
favorite pet or whatever.
How can you
And
choose?
yeah, how can you choose? You're gonna let someone else down. So I don't know that I have a good answer in that regard. The other thing is there's always that like favorite moment that everyone has from each issue. So kind of all of them are my favorite at some point. There's either, you know, uh, there's stuff like I really love the fact that we introduced Giamodis, who's one of the new characters in the new continuity. I believe he
Mhm.
sure shows up in issue number 3. And so like that could be my favorite issue because he's maybe my favorite character.
Right.
Um, or anytime Flame War is in the book is kind of my favorite time in the book. Um, but so it's not a complete cop out. I will say that I do have a special soft spot for the out of continuity Transformers versus the Terminator number 3. Um,
Ah.
in part because yes, I co-wrote it, and so I feel less bad talking about my own work in some way.
Yeah.
Um, but also because that's the issue where we really get to meet that version of the Autobots, and there's just something really fun about getting to play with those characters. I'm sure that's what literally everyone who works on Transformers says, but getting to like write RC was kind of a dream for me, and getting to co-write RC with my favorite RC writer, John Barber, was also very, very special.
Actually, there are some questions about Transformers in the Terminator comics a little bit more further down, but we do have another favorite question, unfortunately. And it's asking, what's your favorite comic series you've worked on and why?
Whew, again, just so tough. Uh, Again, really, like most of them, I won't even say all of them, but most of them end up taking a place for favorite in some way or another.
Hmm.
But I think of my most recent crop of comics, one of the ones that is the two that are probably most special to me are Beast Wars, because I am a huge Beast Wars guy. I'm sure this will come up many times in this panel, but Beast Wars was my Transformers, and it has been my goal since day one of working at IDW to bring Beast Wars back. So that is
Oh,
just sort of immensely fulfilling.
that
Um,
is.
and Scarenthood with Nick Roach. Nick and I are very good friends. He is one of the people who I feel really first welcomed me into the professional Transformers community. Um, and so getting to work on his personal project with him and being there literally every step of the way for uh, a while since Scarenthood started coming together a while ago was really fulfilling.
Did you have any other plans for the Terminator versus Transformers comic series that you're able to share?
Um, that's the key right there. Able to share.
Yeah.
Um, Honestly, at this point, there's nothing quite in the works. There's nothing planned. We
Hmm.
did make sure to leave the series a little bit open-ended so that we could go back because the whole team, me, John Barber, Tom Waltz, Alex Milne, and David Garcia Cruz, we had just a phenomenal time working on it. And I think we'd like to go back there sometime and
Hmm.
find out what happens next. But, you know, uh, for better or for worse, there are so many other exciting Transformers projects on the horizon that's just sort of down the line. Obviously, Beast Wars is most immediately next. That's out this February. But I was on a call earlier today, actually, just talking about, mm, like 3 or 4 exciting Transformers things that are going to be coming up in the next
Oh,
year.
that's exciting for all you
Yeah,
fans.
I can't say anything more than that, but
Fair enough. Fair enough. So you guys watching got something to look forward to coming soon. So bring a little bit more light to all the dark that we're in right now. Something like
mhm.
comics really can cheer people up so much. Why did you choose to use velocity in Transformers versus the Terminator?
Okay, I was actually really looking forward to this question. The simple answer is I just really like Velocity. I think she's cool. The slightly more complicated answer is she actually wasn't my first choice for the series. Originally, it was going to be Nova Star in the pitch, but then someone pointed out that if we were working from the established '80s Transformer continuity, Nova Star never got on the Ark, so she couldn't
Hmm.
be on Earth in the '80s. And so I thought about it, and I realized that that we wanted to have someone else in that position. And one of the things that comes to light in issue 3 is that most of the Autobots are not warriors by trade. They are medics, they are search and rescue people, they are builders and engineers and common people who kind of had to rise up against the Decepticons. And Velocity so perfectly fit that bill as a medic herself. So she just instantly meshed with the series. And then I told Alex we were going to use Velocity, and he turned around her amazing new design for the series, and that really sealed the deal.
Yeah, a lot of people love Velocity. I love her myself. She really is an awesome character. So it was great that you guys did end up choosing her. And that the team was really happy to have her too as the lead. That's awesome. Looking back on the last 5 years of your career, what's the highlight?
Another tough one.
Yeah.
I mentioned it. I mentioned it. So I will say, like, in terms of a goal that I wanted to achieve, the fact that we're doing Beast Wars now is huge.
Yes.
That is something that I've been looking forward to for a long time. I'm so excited for it to come out in the world. Two smaller highlights or two sort of different highlights. I did want to get Kazama to draw the Beast Wars 2 Neo, whatever, character Randy in the back of a panel of Optimus
Hmm.
Prime. And Randy is my favorite Transformer because his name is Randy.
I know,
And
right?
it's like a guy's name. So that was certainly a highlight. And my very unexpected highlight of getting to launch Sonic the Hedgehog, which was with the previous publisher for nearly 25 years and had a lot of history that was going to be a lot to live up to, but I think we've done it. And being a part of that launch and that continuation has been immensely exciting.
For sure. Well, congratulations for being able to be a part of that and for even to be part of the Beast Wars, since that was such a dream for you for so many years. Like, big congrats for that.
Thank you.
When have you felt the lowest in your career? Did you realize how you felt in the moment? How did you respond?
So, you know, I think that I felt the same as most people have in a day job because ultimately that's what comics editorial is. It's a day job.
Hmm.
I've been frustrated and saddened and felt unlistened to. I've occasionally gotten into Twitter fights with people, or
Oh no.
fights is a strong
It
word, but
happens.
so I think it's all sort of the same thing no matter what industry you're in at some point
Yeah.
with that. And yeah, like I have considered quitting or whatever, but usually what has happened is that I have a bad day and then I go home and I don't worry about work for a while. And I come back the next day and the magic of comics kind of gets to me because, I get to see something, and often I get to see something that no one other than the person making it has ever seen before, and that ends up being a real refresher, and so we keep on persevering.
Are there any other characters original to the old IDW TF continuity you'd like to write, like Elarian or Rung?
Yes. Short answer, yes.
Yes.
Uh, I really love the characters from the old continuity. There are a lot of them that are special to me. Uh, I can't say when or if some of those will come to pass, but certainly I would love to work with people like Elron or like Nickel. Nickel is
Mhm.
probably my favorite character of the old Transformers
She's
continuity.
great.
So, yes, short and simple. I think part of what makes those characters so endearing, though, is the fact that there is certainly a way, and particularly in Transformers, there's certainly a way where a new character can be built to serve a plot function. Like, people love Rung, who literally transforms into a plot device. Like, if we're being straightforward with that, but he is such a enriched character. He is such a three-dimensional character that you can't help but want to, see him more and tell more stories about him and know more about him. So, yes, there are plenty that I would like to write because they haven't had enough time to shine. And
Mhm.
there are plenty that will be coming back, though
Something to look forward to, guys.
yeah, not
And even if they
necessarily
don't come
now.
back now, maybe in the future, these characters are very loved by not only you guys, the fans,
Hmm.
but our editors, our artists, everybody fall in love with them, working with them for so long. What was the last thing you nerded out on?
Oh, geez. So much. Let's see. So geez, I don't actually know that this is the last thing I nerded out on, but it might be the last one that I did that I can talk about at this point. So, I've been reading the DC Future State comic stuff, and it's
Mhm.
really exciting. I love comic books, if that's not obvious, but I do love comics that I don't, work on. And getting to see this sort of fresh take on the DC canon and see so many new and underutilized characters get to take the spotlight is very exciting. So I've been really enjoying that.
So, before we wrap things up, are there any other projects? I know Beast Wars, but are there any other projects that you can and would like to talk about to just shout out to everybody here in the panel before we do wrap things up?
Sure. So obviously check out all the stuff that we're doing at IDW. There's some really great stuff that I don't work on. We just launched a Star Wars High Republic book, which is very exciting. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: The Last Ronin is happening, which is kind of the ultimate Turtles story if you're interested in that. There's plenty of stuff that I work on, Transformers, the various other Transformers books like Beast Wars and Escape, Sonic the Hedgehog, Canto, which is a story about a little tin knight, which is adorable and amazing. If you like Transformers creators, Nick Roach's Scarenthood is fantastic. Livia Ramondelli's The Killlock is fantastic.
Amazing, yeah.
Yeah. So those are the other sort of projects that I recommend you check out.
Okay, David. Well, I would like to thank you so much for joining us tonight. And I'd like to thank the viewers for watching. I hope that you guys had a wonderful time. And I hope that everybody enjoys the rest of the con. This has been so exciting for all of us here. And we hope that you guys are just having an amazing time here. David, anything else you want to say before we wrap it up?
Sure, I'll say one last thing. If you liked me for some reason, thanks. But you can check me out on Twitter at IDW underscore David underscore M. I talk a lot about upcoming releases so you can stay up to date on when the comics are coming out. But I also talk a lot about stuff like best portfolio practices and how to work on pitches if you'd like to create your own comic that doesn't have anything to do with anything licensed and all of that stuff. So, yeah. Thanks for having me. And
Thank you, David. Have a good one, everybody. Goodbye now.
bye.